The evening sky draped itself over the sprawling city of Chicago in hues of indigo and violet, the skyline glittering like a string of diamonds as dusk surrendered to night. In a sleek downtown penthouse, the hum of a distant jazz tune from the radio mingled with the soft clink of ice in a glass. Cassandra Blake, 48, a former interior designer now living off her husband's wealth, sat alone in the expansive living room, her tablet glowing against the dim light. Her auburn hair cascaded in loose waves, catching the flicker of city lights through the floor-to-ceiling windows. The penthouse was a masterpiece of modern elegance, marble counters, plush velvet furniture, and abstract art adorning the walls, but it felt hollow, a beautiful shell encasing an unspoken void. Cassandra scrolled aimlessly, her manicured nails tapping the screen. The clock on the wall ticked past 10 p.m., its rhythm a reminder of the silence that had settled over the apartment. Her husband Richard, a 55-year-old corporate lawyer, was away again chasing deals in New York or London or wherever his ambition dragged him. Their marriage, once a blaze of passion, had cooled to embers, reduced to polite exchanges and perfunctory kisses. At 48, Cassandra felt like a relic in her life, admired but untouched, her desires locked away like fine china never used. The faint sound of a door creaking down the hall pulled her from her thoughts. Ethan, her 24-year-old stepson, was home. Not her blood, but family all the same. Richard had adopted Ethan at 17 after his parents, close friends of Richard's, died in a plane crash. Ethan had been a quiet, brooding teenager, then all sharp angles and guarded eyes. Now at 24, he was a striking young man, lean-muscled, dark curls, and a smile that could disarm anyone. He was a graphic designer, freelancing from the guest suite, his creativity a stark contrast to Richard's rigid world. But lately Cassandra had noticed a shift in him, restless glances, awkward silences, a tension that seemed to coil tighter each day. Rising from the sofa, her silk robe brushing against her thighs, Cassandra padded barefoot across the polished hardwood floor. Ethan's door was slightly ajar, a sliver of light spilling into the hallway. She hesitated, her hand hovering near the frame. Curiosity, her old vice, nudged her forward. With a gentle push, the door opened wider, and she froze. Ethan sat on his bed, his laptop casting a soft glow across his chiseled features. The screen displayed an adult film, the kind that left nothing to the imagination, moans and tangled bodies filling the silence. His hand moved beneath the thin sheet, slow and deliberate, his face flushed with a mix of focus and shame. Cassandra's breath caught her heart slamming against her ribs. She should have turned away, but her eyes lingered on the outline, beneath the sheet, thick and unmistakable, stirring something deep within her, a heat she hadn't felt in years. "Ethan," she said, her voice soft, slicing through the heavy air. He jolted his head, snapping up as the laptop slammed shut. His cheeks burned crimson, the sheet pulled higher as if it could shield him from her gaze. "Cassandra, I didn't hear you." He stammered, his voice thick with panic. She stepped into the room, closing the door behind her, the click echoing like a gavel. Crossing her arms, she leaned against the wall, her expression calm, but her pulse racing. "What are you doing?" she asked, though the answer hung between them, undeniable. Ethan's eyes dropped to the floor, his fingers twisting the sheet. I was just..." His voice faltered, unable to form the lie. "It's okay," Cassandra said, her tone gentle, disarming. "You don't have to explain. I know what you were doing." The room fell silent, the tension thick and electric. Ethan's shoulders hunched, his embarrassment palpable. Cassandra moved closer, sitting on the edge of the bed, her robe slipping slightly to reveal the curve of her thigh. She studied him, her green eyes softening. "Ethan, do you want to talk about it?" He hesitated, his jaw tight. "I'm just nervous," he admitted, his voice barely a whisper. "About Mia. We've been seeing each other for a while, and she wants to take things further, but I don't know what I'm doing. I'm terrified I'll screw it up. Cassandra nodded her hand, resting lightly on his shoulder, the touch sending a shiver through them both. That's normal, Ethan. Everyone feels nervous their first time. It's a big step. He looked up, his dark eyes brimming with doubt. What if I'm terrible? What if she's disappointed? She smiled, squeezing his shoulder. You're overthinking it. Just be yourself. Talk to her. Listen to her, take it slow. It's not about perfection, it's about connection. Ethan nodded, but the uncertainty lingered. I just wish I knew what to expect. I don't want to let her down. Cassandra's heart ached for him, but beneath her compassion stirred something dangerous, a desire to guide him, to ease his fears in a way that transcended words. She stood smoothing her robe and left the room, her mind a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. As she sank onto the living room sofa, the image of Ethan's flushed face, his vulnerability burned in her mind. How could she help him? The question gnawed at her, igniting a spark she knew she should extinguish. The days that followed were a slow burn, each moment laced with unspoken tension. Ethan's confession lingered, his insecurities a constant presence in Cassandra's thoughts. She watched him closely, his fidgeting at breakfast, his distracted stares out the window, his broad shoulders tense with unspoken fears. Their bond had always been close, a mix of maternal care and easy friendship forged in the years since she'd married Richard. But now, faced with Ethan's raw vulnerability, Cassandra felt an urge to cross a line she'd never dared approach. One evening, as she chopped vegetables in the kitchen, her silk blouse clinging to her curves, she caught Ethan sprawled on the living room couch, scrolling through his phone. His leg bounced restlessly, a telltale sign of his inner turmoil. Setting down her knife, she wiped her hands and walked to the doorway. "Ethan," she said softly, her voice cutting through the quiet. He looked up, startled. "Yeah. You okay? You've been quiet lately." He shrugged, avoiding her gaze. "Just thinking about stuff." She moved to the couch, sitting beside him, her perfume a mix of jasmine and amber, filling the space between them. "Is this about Mia? About what we talked about?" Ethan hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah. I can't stop worrying about it. It's all I think about." Her hand found his shoulder, her touch warm and deliberate. "You can't let it consume you, Ethan. You'll figure it out when the time comes." He looked at her, his eyes pleading. "I just want to be sure. I don't want to mess this up." Cassandra's heart twisted. Words weren't enough. She needed to do more, to give him the confidence he craved. That night, as she lay in bed, her mind raced with possibilities, each one bolder than the last. By morning, a plan had formed, reckless and thrilling. She would guide him not just with advice, but with experience, crossing boundaries that both terrified and exhilarated her. Over the next few days, Cassandra shifted her behavior, each move calculated to stir Ethan's awareness. She traded her usual loungewear for fitted dresses and silky tops that hugged her figure, the fabric accentuating her curves. One morning, she left the bathroom door ajar as she showered the steam, carrying the scent of her lavender body wash into the hall. Ethan passed by, his eyes catching her silhouette through the frosted glass, his steps faltering before he hurried away. Another evening, she wore a short black dress that clung to her hips, brushing past him in the hallway, her hand grazing his arm. His eyes flickered downward, his breath hitching, his cheeks flushed as he looked away. She even accidentally sent him a link to an adult film, claiming it was meant for a friend. The text pinged his phone as they sat in the living room, and she watched his reaction, the way his fingers fumbled, his face burning as he closed the app. Each interaction left Ethan flustered, his glances lingering longer, his body betraying his intrigue. Cassandra saw it all, her plan unfolding perfectly, breaking down the walls between them. By the end of the week, she knew it was time to escalate. Sitting across from Ethan at the dinner table, his brow furrowed as he pushed his food around his plate, she made her decision. She would be his guide, teaching him confidence and desire, ensuring he faced Mia without fear. It was a line she couldn't uncross, but the thought sent a thrill through her veins. The next morning, Cassandra stood at her vanity, brushing her hair with slow, deliberate strokes, her reflection a study in determination. Today, she would take the next step. In the kitchen, Ethan sat at the island, a bowl of oatmeal, untouched, his phone, glowing in his hand. He looked up as she entered, his eyes flickering over her loose silk robe, the deep V-neck hinting at the curves beneath. "Morning," he mumbled, his voice strained. "Good morning," she replied, her tone light as she poured coffee. Leaning against the counter, she crossed her legs, the robe slipping to reveal a sliver of thigh. "You know, I've been wanting to try that new French bistro downtown. Everyone's talking about it." Ethan nodded, his expression puzzled. "Sounds nice. Why don't you come with me?" She continued, her voice casual but deliberate. "We could make it a dinner date. Just the two of us." His eyebrows shot up his spoon, pausing midair. "A dinner date." "Sure," she said, shrugging as if it were nothing. "We haven't spent much time together lately. It'll be fun." Ethan hesitated, his eyes darting over her robe again. "I guess I could." "Great," Cassandra said, her smile widening. 7 o'clock. Be ready." She set her cup in the sink and walked upstairs, her heart pounding. The first step was done. Ethan was intrigued, and he'd agreed. Now she needed to ensure the evening sealed her plan. That evening, Cassandra emerged from her room in a crimson dress that hugged her like a lover, the fabric clinging to her curves, the hem teasing mid-thigh. The neckline dipped just enough to draw the eye, and her black stilettos added a sway to her step. Her makeup was bold, smoky eyes, red lips, and her hair fell in loose waves framing her face. She studied herself in the mirror, her pulse quickening. This was no longer just about helping Ethan. It was about reclaiming her own desire, her own power. Ethan waited in the living room, dressed in a navy button-up and dark jeans, his nervous energy palpable. His eyes widened as he saw her, his throat bobbing. "You look incredible," he said, his voice catching. "Thank you," Cassandra replied, her smile soft but knowing. "Let's go." The drive to the bistro was thick with tension, the silence broken only by the hum of the engine. At the restaurant, they were led to a candlelit table in a secluded corner, the ambiance intimate, the air heavy with possibility. Cassandra sat crossing her legs slowly, her dress riding up to reveal a glimpse of thigh. Ethan's eyes lingered, then darted away, his cheeks flushed. They ordered, making small talk about his latest design project, her charity galas, anything to keep the conversation light. But Cassandra saw the strain in his posture, the way his fingers gripped his fork. As the meal progressed, she tested the waters, leaning forward to give him a view of her cleavage, brushing her foot against his calf under the table. Ethan stiffened, his eyes meeting hers, then dropping his breath uneven. "Ethan," she said softly, drawing his gaze back, "I'm here for you. Whatever you're going through, you can talk to me." He nodded, his voice low. "I know, it's just hard to say." She reached across the table, her hand covering his, her touch electric. "You don't have to go through this alone." Ethan stared at her hand, his breath hitching. "Cassandra." Excuse me," she interrupted, standing and smoothing her dress. "I'll be right back." In the restroom, Cassandra steadied herself, her reflection a mix of resolve and desire. She reached under her dress, slipping off her lace panties, folding them neatly into her clutch. Touching up her lipstick, she returned to the table, her heart racing. Sitting down, she pulled the panties from her clutch and slid them across the table, her voice a sultry whisper. "Keep these. They're yours now." Ethan stared, his face a blaze of red, his mouth opening, but no words escaping. Cassandra sipped her wine, her gaze steady, knowing the night was only beginning. The restaurant's warmth gave way to the cool night air as they left, Ethan's hand trembling as he stuffed the panties into his pocket. Cassandra's heels clicked against the pavement, each step a deliberate tease. In the car, she crossed her legs slowly, the dress riding higher, Ethan's eyes flickering toward her before snapping back to the road. The tension was a living thing, wrapping them in its grip. "You're quiet," she teased her hand, brushing his thigh, the touch light but incendiary. "Something on your mind, just the food." He managed his voice tight. It was good. She chuckled, the sound low and inviting. At a red light, she spread her legs slightly, the dress revealing a glimpse of bare skin. Ethan's breath caught his eyes, darting to her, then away, his knuckles white on the wheel. She said nothing, letting the moment simmer, the air thick with unspoken desire. Back at the penthouse, Cassandra set her clutch on the entryway table, turning to Ethan with a calm but expectant look. "Why don't we sit for a bit? We can talk." Ethan hesitated, his heart pounding. "Okay," he mumbled, following her to the living room. She stopped at the bar cart, holding up a bottle of bourbon. "Want one?" Her eyes gleamed with mischief. "Sure," he said, his voice hoarse. Cassandra bent over to pour her dress riding up, giving him a clear view of her bare curves. Ethan's breath hitched his face, burning as he looked away. She handed him a glass, their fingers brushing, and sat on the couch. Her legs crossed the dress, teasing higher. Patting the space beside her, she locked eyes with him. "Sit." Ethan obeyed, leaving a small gap, his eyes fixed on the floor. The panties in his pocket burned like a brand. Cassandra leaned forward, her hand brushing his leg. "Look at me," she said, her voice gentle but commanding. He turned his eyes wide with fear and curiosity. She placed her hand over his, her touch warm. "You don't have to be scared. I'm here for you." Ethan swallowed hard. "I don't know what to say." He admitted, his voice trembling. "You don't have to say anything," she whispered, shifting closer, her leg brushing his. "Just listen." Her lips grazed his ear, her breath hot. "Do you trust me?" "Yes," he whispered, his body trembling. She smiled, her hand moving to his thigh, her touch bold. Then, without warning, she kissed him, her lips soft and demanding. Ethan froze, then melted his hands, finding her waist trembling as they pulled her closer. The kiss deepened, a slow burn of desire, Cassandra guiding him with unhurried confidence. "Follow my lead," she whispered, her hands guiding his to her hips, teaching him to touch her with purpose. Ethan's fingers traced her curves, his breath ragged, his heart racing as he surrendered to the moment. Cassandra's lips moved against Ethan's, each kiss, a spark igniting a fire she'd long thought extinguished. Her hands roamed his shoulders, fingers brushing the nape of his neck, pulling him deeper into the moment. Ethan's touch, tentative at first, grew bolder, his hands exploring the contours of her body through the crimson dress, the fabric a thin barrier to the heat beneath. The penthouse living room with its sleek furniture and city views faded away, leaving only the electric pulse between them. She pulled back, her breath mingling with his, her lips brushing his cheek. "Just a moment," she whispered, standing with a grace that belied the storm within her. Ethan watched, his hands trembling, as she walked down the hallway to her bedroom. His mind spun the taste of her lips, lingering, the weight of her panties in his pocket, a constant reminder of the line they'd crossed. When Cassandra returned, the crimson dress was gone. She stood in the doorway, clad in a black lace negligee that clung to her curves like a lover's touch, the intricate patterns accentuating her figure in a way that stole Ethan's breath. The soft glow of the living room lamps cast shadows across her skin, her confidence a stark contrast to his wide-eyed awe. She leaned against the frame arms, crossed her smile, teasing yet assured. "Do you like what you see?" she asked, her voice a sultry purr. Ethan's throat worked, words failing him. His eyes traced her form, his hands clenching the couch, knuckles white. "Yes." He managed, his voice a hoarse whisper. Her smile widened, and she glided toward him, each step deliberate, her hips swaying. Stopping before him, she tilted his chin, forcing his gaze to meet hers. "Good," she murmured, leaning down, her lips brushing his ear. She straightened, taking a step back, her eyes never leaving his. Patience, she said, her tone commanding yet playful. Ethan nodded, his breath shallow, his body taut with anticipation. Cassandra turned, glancing over her shoulder as she beckoned. "Come with me." He followed, his heart pounding the click of her heels, a siren's call. In her bedroom, the air was thick with her perfume, jasmine and amber, intoxicating and warm. The king-sized bed, draped in silk sheets, glowed under the soft light of a bedside lamp. Cassandra closed the door, her hands finding his chest, feeling the rapid beat of his heart. "Are you nervous?" she asked, her eyes searching his. A little, Ethan admitted, his voice trembling. She smiled, her thumb brushing his cheek. "We'll take it slow." Her lips found his again, the kiss slow and deliberate, a promise of what was to come. Ethan's hands settled on her waist, fingers trembling against the lace. She pulled back, whispering, "Trust me." Guiding him to the bed, she pushed him gently onto the mattress, straddling his waist, her hands on his chest. "Let me show you," she murmured, her voice intimate. Ethan's hands rested on her hips, his breath hitching as she leaned down, her kisses trailing from his lips to his jaw, each touch igniting a spark. She guided his hands, teaching him to explore her body with intention, her whispers encouraging his tentative touches. "Like this," she said, guiding his hand to the small of her back, her skin warm beneath the lace. Ethan followed, his fingers tracing her curves, his confidence growing with each moan she let slip. Her lips found his again, the kiss deeper, hungrier, her hands unbuttoning his shirt, exposing the lean muscle beneath. The night unfolded in a blur of sensation. Soft touches, whispered guidance, and the slow, deliberate rhythm of their bodies moving together. When it was over, they lay entwined, their breaths slowing the silk sheets cool against their heated skin. Cassandra rested her head on Ethan's chest, her fingers tracing lazy patterns. "You were amazing," she whispered, her voice warm. Ethan smiled, his hand on her back. "You taught me well," he said softly. "Get some rest," she murmured, pulling him closer. They drifted off the city's hum, a distant lullaby. Morning light filtered through the curtains, casting a golden glow over the bedroom. Ethan woke first, the weight of the night settling in his chest. Cassandra slept beside him, her body curled against his, her breathing steady. His hand rested on her back, but his mind raced, guilt, exhilaration, and confusion warring within him. Mia's face flashed in his thoughts, followed by the reality of what he'd done with Cassandra. It felt like a dream, but the ache in his body, the scent of her perfume, grounded it in truth. Cassandra stirred, her eyes fluttering open. She smiled, brushing hair from her face. "Good morning," she said, her voice husky. "Morning," Ethan replied, his tone guarded. She studied him, sensing his unease. "You okay?" He hesitated. "I don't know." He admitted, his voice trembling. She propped herself up, her hand on his chest. "It's okay to feel conflicted. This was a big step. Just take it one step at a time." Ethan nodded, wanting to believe her, but the weight of Mia, of Richard, pressed down. Cassandra kissed him soft and reassuring, then slipped from bed, tying a silk robe around her waist. "I'm starving." "Breakfast." "Sure," he said, following her to the kitchen, his mind still churning. As Cassandra whisked eggs, her easy chatter about favorite recipes and childhood memories eased some of his tension. They ate at the island, the morning light softening the edges of their reality. But as they cleared the plates, Cassandra's tone shifted. "We need to talk," she said, her voice gentle but firm. Ethan's stomach tightened. "Okay." She took his hand, her touch steadying. "I know this is complicated. I don't regret last night, and I hope you don't either. But you don't have to decide anything now. Take your time." "I don't regret it," Ethan said quietly. "But, Mia and Dad, I don't know what this means." "I want you to be happy," Cassandra said, her thumb brushing his hand. "I'm here whatever that looks like. No pressure." Ethan nodded. grateful for her patience, but the questions lingered unresolved. The weeks that followed were a tightrope walk. Ethan threw himself into his design work, avoiding Cassandra. When he could, his guilt a constant shadow. She gave him space, but her presence, her lingering glances, the brush of her hand kept the fire alive. Richard returned from his trip, oblivious his dry kiss on Cassandra's cheek, a stark contrast to the heat of her nights with Ethan. One rainy evening, with Richard away again, Ethan came home late, his eyes glassy from too many drinks at a bar. Cassandra found him on the balcony, a whiskey bottle in hand, his shirt rumpled. "What the hell?" "Ethan," she said, snatching the bottle. "You're 24. He laughed, bitter and sharp. "And you're my stepmom. Guess we're both screwing up." The word stepmom hung heavy, twisted with meaning. She sat beside him, the cold metal of the balcony railing biting her skin. "We need to talk about this." "Why?" he snapped, turning to her, his breath sharp with whiskey. "You'll regret it." "I don't know if I do," she admitted, her voice raw. His eyes locked on her lips, and the air crackled with need. The kiss was fierce, born of desperation, their bodies pressed against the balcony's edge, rain soaking their clothes. It was reckless, hungry, the city's pulse matching their own. Afterward, they lay tangled in her bed, Ethan's voice a whisper. "I can't stop." "Neither can I." Cassandra replied the truth, a weight they couldn't shed. Their affair became a dangerous dance. Fake names in Ethan's phone to cover late-night texts, a new lock on Cassandra's bedroom door for when Richard was home. But cracks formed. Ethan skipped client meetings, his focus fraying. Richard questioned a credit card charge for a boutique lingerie purchase. "Since when do you shop there?" he asked, his eyes narrowing. Cassandra laughed it off, but the lie tasted bitter. Once she nearly moaned Ethan's name, while with Richard, the slip a heartbeat from disaster. The first close call came during a thunderstorm. Ethan pinned her against the kitchen island, his lips on her neck, hands slipping beneath her sweater. Thunder masked their gasps, but Richard's voice cut through. "Cassandra." "You home?" They froze, breaths ragged as his footsteps neared. Ethan pulled back his forehead against hers, whispering, "Shit." The footsteps faded upstairs, and they exhaled the thrill of danger, now part of the allure. 2 weeks later, Ethan texted at 3 a.m. "Come to my studio." His freelance space was a 20-minute drive, a reckless choice. Cassandra went the night blurring into rough, urgent passion, Ethan's hands gripping her with a possessive edge. "You were with him today," he growled, jealousy lacing his voice. "Just lunch," she said, arching into him, guilt fueling her hunger. As she dressed, Ethan's words stopped her. "I love you. I don't want this. I want you." She kissed him, dodging the confession, but it haunted her. Richard found the evidence, a hotel receipt from a night Cassandra claimed she was at a gala. "Who's Ethan meeting at the Ritz?" he asked at dinner, sliding the paper across the table. Ethan's fork clattered, his face pale. Cassandra forced a laugh. "Maybe a girl he's shy about." Richard's eyes narrowed. "Bullshit. Show me your phone, Ethan." Ethan bolted the door, slamming tires screeching. Richard turned to Cassandra, his voice icy. "You have something to tell me." She tried to deny it, but the truth spilled out: a shower, a kitchen, a balcony. Richard listened, his face a mask, until she finished. "Get out," he said, his voice flat. Ethan's studio was empty, his phone off. Richard changed the locks. Cassandra checked into a cheap motel, the bleach-scented sheets, a far cry from her penthouse. Divorce papers arrived, days later, slipped under her door with a note. Sign, "Don't contact me." Her signature ended, 18 years of marriage. Ethan vanished, his social media gone, his clients unaware of his whereabouts. Cassandra searched his favorite spots, the art supply store, the dive bar, the lakefront, where they'd once sketched together. Nothing. A missed call at 2 a.m. was her only trace, his voicemail. "A knife. I hate you. I hate that I still love you." A sob, then silence. Gossip spread. Stepmom's affair with adopted son, turning their story into tabloid fodder. Cassandra's sister called, once her voice sharp. Jesus, Cass. Then silence. At the motel, wine stained the tub pink, as Cassandra drowned in regret, the weight of her choices crushing her. Months later, she found Ethan at a rundown bar, a new tattoo snaking up his arm, his eyes hollow. "What are you doing here?" he spat. "No one else will," she said, offering cash and a bus ticket. He took them boarding without a look back. His middle finger, a final farewell. Now Cassandra works nights at a gas station on the city's edge, her name tag reading, Lila. No makeup, no silk robes, just a woman pouring coffee for strangers, her hands trembling. She remembers Ethan's touch, Richard's laugh, and wonders if it was worth it. Ruin doesn't care about regret. It burns and keeps burning. Cassandra's story is a raw, unfiltered plunge into desire's depths, a warning of what happens when boundaries are shattered. It's a tale of hunger and betrayal, where fleeting passion leaves scars that never fade. What would you have done in her place? Could you have walked away? Some doors once opened never close. Share your thoughts below, and remember one choice can unravel everything.